There you have it. They're so obsessed with this stuff, this race stuff. As a matter of fact, I have a piece here by William Jacobson, a great professor, has a great website called Legal Insurrection. Section 4302. Oh, there's so many sections of the Affordable Care Act. This is the other thing the left does. They name things, as I keep saying, that are the opposite of what they say. The Affordable Care Act, it's the Unaffordable Care Act. The Department of Justice, it's the Department of Injustice. The Department of Energy is the Department of No Energy. The Department of Education, you got to be kidding. I want to read this section of the Act to you. It's not long, but it's going to affect each and every one of you. Each and every one of you. More race, more categories, more data. And in this particular instance, what are they going to use it for? This race stuff, where they just refuse to treat us as human beings. They refuse to treat us as citizens. They keep corralling us into this group or that group based on income, based on sexual preferences, based on transitioning sexual preferences, based on race, ethnicity. It's so absurd. And it serves nobody's purpose but the government's purpose, to just keep agitating and agitating and agitating. Section 4302 of your Unaffordable Care Act, a.k.a. Obamacare. This is from Professor William Jacobson, Legal Insurrection. And he cites HHS, how they explain it. And they say the Affordable Care Act includes several provisions aimed at eliminating health disparities in America. I go, oh, here we go. Section 4302 focuses on the standardization, collection, analysis, and reporting of health disparities data. Huh? Oh, yes. While data alone will not reduce disparities, they write, it can be foundational to our efforts to understand the causes, design effective responses, and evaluate our progress. Section 4302 requires the Secretary of HHS to establish data collection standards for race, ethnicity, sex, primary language, and disability status. The law requires that once established, these data collection standards be used to the extent practicable in all national population health surveys. And in response to this statutory requirement, this implementation guidance outlines the new minimum data collection standards for race, ethnicity, sex, primary language, and disability status for implementation in HHS, and so forth. It's worse than that. If you refuse to give them the race and ethnicity data that they require, then the doctor may not give you attention. Then the doctor shall not give you attention. It's mandatory. It's mandatory. Now I ask you, what's the point of this? Is our federal Leviathan now going to redistribute healthcare services, or maybe medicines, or doctors, or facilities, based on some racial and gender data? If not, what's the point? Brave New World. Or maybe Thomas More's Utopia. You ever read Thomas More's Utopia? The majority of scholars say that it is fiction, but there are a minority of scholars who say no, it's not. He was describing, from a philosophical point of view, the future. Well, it doesn't really matter, because statism, liberalism, Marxism, whatever you wish to call it, is a fiction. And that's what makes it so damning. And that's what makes it so damaging. It is, as I say time and again, an impossibility. And so to impose it on flesh and blood human beings becomes a disaster for their flesh and blood human beings. Because you cannot become a fiction. You're reality. And it's funny that people who, no, it's a fiction, it's a fiction. They don't understand that they're arguing that the utopia paradise that Thomas More writes about, either tongue-in-cheek or truthfully, is a fiction. Just as Marxism is a fiction. Just as liberalism is a fiction. And to try and make it a reality is the problem. Now they're going to collect not only data about your health, mental and physical, your treatments, your medicines, and all the rest of it, have to know your race and your ethnicity and your primary language. Yes. Why? Because then we can show how racist this country is. And then we can do something about it. Well, what are you going to do about it? Reallocate medical resources. Reallocate healthcare resources. What do you mean by that? Some will get more, some will get less. The masterminds will decide. That's why they're collecting the information. And slowly but surely, that's what they're going to do. Because slowly but surely, this is where we're headed in every respect. Government treats us not as individual human beings, but as a mass. You ever hear the left always talks about the masses, the masses? Well, Reagan, in his famous speech on behalf of Barry Goldwater, he makes that point. We're not masses. We're not the masses. We're the citizenry, and we're individuals. But that's okay. It just can't work out that way if you're a big government leftist. We're the masses. Can't worry about the individual. Point of fact, look at Obama. Do you think, is he worried about every individual? Oh, this person has cancer and they can't get a doctor. As a matter of fact, this is how they compartmentalize things. They don't have to think about us as human beings. You can hear the spokesman, Carney, and the other mouthpieces on TV who go on and on about this stuff. Yeah, but it only affects 2%. Well, let's see, 2% of 300 million, that's a lot of people. Nah, it's only 2%, or maybe 3.5%. Oh, okay. That's millions of people. But you see, it doesn't matter because it's only 2.5%, maybe 3%. They don't give a damn if it's your mother or your daughter or your father or your none of that matters. All right, well, look, they can't see the cancer doctor that they've had. All right, I understand they can't get the medicine that they're used to, but look at this. We got 2 million more people on health care. Now, they lie about the numbers, but just listen to the point. The point isn't the misery they're doing, individual to individual, household by household. It doesn't matter. They overlook. They're cold-blooded. It doesn't matter. So look at the big picture. Look at all these people are now going to have health care, even though they're not, but pretend. Look at all these people are going to have health care who wouldn't have otherwise had it. So they argue in their generalities, and they're always talking about their vision for the future. And besides, a few bumps in the road, we'll get this thing fixed. There's something I've been meaning to mention, by the way, because I've heard these Obama spokesidiots say this time and again. They say Obamacare is no different than when Social Security and Medicare came out, there were these bumps in the road. Obamacare is no different. Say what you will about Social Security and Medicare. They didn't require you, did they, to abandon something? They didn't require you to abandon private pensions. They didn't require you to abandon private health care unless you wanted to. Obamacare is the ultimate iron fist. You're not allowed to enter into a private insurance contract. A company is not free to provide a private insurance contract unless, number one, that contract, that is the policy, is approved by the federal Leviathan, and number two, you are required to pick among those that are available at one point when they get past these election cycles and stop with the waivers. So while you're required to pay into Social Security, while you're required to pay into Medicare, you're not required to give up your private pension, and you're not required to give up your private health care. There's a huge difference. And just like Social Security, when we have these bumps in the road. Those bumps in the road are called human beings, you idiots. Who wants to talk about this, right? Well, I do.